So hello and welcome to today's video. So for today's video we're going to do a video on unidentified media, and to do that we're going to be revisiting a supposed Bully 2 leak from 2019, specifically the leaked soundtrack. Now I am not talking about the Bully 2 OST's ARG that was making the rounds at that time as well, because that was debunked extremely quickly, especially because they was using music from Drama Alert. But the one that many people seem to have forgotten about is, well, back in 2019, a Reddit user by the name of IC_IC uploaded 2 tracks. So when IC_IC posted these leaks, he claimed that they were from near the finale, and the other one was from the loading screen. Take a quick listen to them both. Now to be honest, I, and I'm sure many others in the community, completely forgot this ever existed. In my case, that was until I was watching a video about unidentified music. Then I instantly remembered this leak and rumour from 2019, and it got me wondering, what the absolute hell is this song even from? Because it was never actually debunked fully. So when the song first surfaced, people remained sceptical, and rightfully so, and many people used Shazam on it. Now, Shazam actually did find a match. So that's it, we found the song, that's it, video over. People who use Shazam found out that it did get a match, but it was not the supposed song, because it changed every single time. No, this is not some creepypasta about some song that changes, it's just Shazam really did not get the song down at all. In fact, it didn't even pick up any song that sounded remotely like it. Like for this video, I tried it with Shazam 4 times and I got 4 different results. One of the results was no match at all, as expected, and the other 3 were just songs that sounded absolutely nothing like it, including Human City by Twy, Nightlife by Alexandro Cause, and Electroshock by Eisman. Yeah, absolutely none of these songs sound remotely similar to the supposed Bully 2 leak, so I'm not sure how Shazam found this, probably because they're all instrumental. Meaning this song's identity is completely unknown. So we're going to be covering some possible theories on this unidentified bit of music, and we're going to give some cases for and against each one. So for the first one, it's from Bully 2, and it's a genuine leak. So for argument's sake, let's just say it is indeed from Bully 2. Because if you follow Bully 2, you know just how much of it has been completely and utterly leaked over the past few years. We know pretty much everything there is to know about it. We know Shawn Lee was going to come back to compose the soundtrack. We know it's been in development about 3 times, it was pretty deep into development at the time as well. Cancelled due to Red Dead Redemption, we know it was going to follow Jimmy Hopkins, you get the idea, it's pretty much an open secret at this point. Because many concept artworks have leaked, developers have spoken out about it, and even recently, as I'm making this, it's been leaked in the GTA 5 PDB. Of course, it's never been fully stated how far Bully 2 was into development. We don't know if it was halfway done, we don't know if it was only 20% done. But what we do know, going off what developers have stated, is that it was in development for a few years, and there are fully playable builds, and because Shawn even stated that he was composing the soundtrack all the way back in 2009, that's about a year and a half into development, give or take a couple of months, it does mean that some songs from Bully 2 were definitely composed. Now, the full-on playable builds that were created were about 6 hours long in playtime. Keep in mind that's not the full game of course, that's just a debug build, and that was confirmed by the developers who worked on it back then. So it is not entirely unrealistic that somebody who was working on Bully 2 at the time still has a hold of these files somehow. Many developers do keep bits of their work to showcase off their portfolio. These of course could be music, models, whatever. So if, and I do say if, it is a genuine Bully 2 leak, it could be from that. Maybe a rogue employee who still has archives of this music from back in the day, or better yet, a full-on playable dev kit. Unlikely, but you never know. But let's go over some cases against this now, because what we know of is a little bit rocky. Let me explain that actually, because, well, it's mostly to do with the Bully 2 story. While we do know the basic outline of Buddy 2's story, the entire story has never been fully leaked, only a very brief synopsis has. That synopsis being continuation of Jimmy's story, his stepfather was going to play a role, and he ends up at a summer camp. That's the very core basics of what we know of. There are no mention of any antagonists, and the missions that the team had mentioned they'd done were definitely not the finale. One mission that Buddy 2 had was going to be heavily inspired by the Simpsons episode Camp Krusty, which has no showdowns on a cliff, and to me it sounds like it was going to be the rather kind of same vibe as Chapter 4. You know, highly exaggerated, full of action, played up for just for laughs really, not something to be taken too seriously. And the other 3 missions that were mentioned, you can tell had absolutely nothing to do with this soundtrack either. The other missions involved Jimmy in his underwear, which to me sounds like a comedy kind of mission played up for laughs. The other one involved a local beekeeper, keyword local and beekeeper, hardly chasing down an antagonist on a cliff. And the last one was a go-kart, which is very clearly racing. None of these are the finale. During an interview with Shawn Lee, he stated that when he was composing for the first Buddy, he was shown pre-release footage and he'd take note of what was happening on screen, like what the player was doing and the action and whatever, and he'd make his music around that and how he felt it would fit the scene. If they never finished the final missions, how would he have known to compose the music for them to begin with? All the Buddy boss music was very heavily influenced by the clique leader Jimmy was fighting. Now, another counterpoint is, we really don't know how complete Buddy 2 was. It was in development for around 2 years at the very least, and considering the developers themselves assumed it would be released around 2012 to 2013, it means the game was probably around maybe 40, 50, 60% done, I don't know. That's just a conservative estimate. Which could mean they might have done all the missions in a very basic form. It could also mean the main story itself was 35% done, but they were just finishing up the map and some of the side activities and pedestrian mapping. We may never know. Plus, it was never mentioned what version of Buddy 2 it was from. We know that Buddy 2 was cancelled at least 3 times. The first one being in 2008, shortly after the release of Scholarship Edition, and then it was picked up again sometime in the 2010s, apparently cancelled again, and then was scheduled for announcement in 2017, and then canned again. So if it's from say the 2008 build of Buddy 2, we can maybe say Shawn did work on that, but it's never been stated if Shawn returned to compose for the other versions of Buddy 2 either. Plus, regarding Shawn as well, if, and I do say if he composed it, he might not be legally allowed to speak about it, or maybe has genuinely forgot. The reason I bring up the fact he might have forgot is because back when the Buddy community had their own Lost Media Hunt with the Carnival Funhouse Graveyard soundtrack, a redditor emailed Shawn about it, and Shawn did respond, but he said he had no memory of ever composing the track, despite the fact he did, because that specific soundtrack was going to be a part of the Buddy original soundtrack, which was released on MTV's Urge Music service, as part of an official release by Rockstar themselves. Plus, in Shawn's defence, he did mention he has composed over 200 tracks for the first Buddy alone, and considering he's been making music since the 90s at the very least, I can see how he might have forgotten quite a few cancelled and projects he's composed over the years. Plus, regarding Buddy 2 as well, aside from the one mention in 2009, he has sort of not stated he was working on Buddy 2 ever since. It could be a little bit of a slip of the NDA. So, option number 2. It's from another game that Shawn Lee composed for. Many people noted that the leaked soundtrack does sound rather similar to Shawn Lee's work on Buddy. I mean, obviously, because if it is from Buddy 2, you'd want it to keep the same kind of style. If it isn't from Buddy 2, where would he have got it from? Another game, of course. It is very common for many composers to just compose for other projects, films, games, their own works, whatever. Now this one I think is extremely, and I mean extremely, unlikely. Gaming wise, Shawn has only ever really composed for Buddy and The Getaway, and for The Getaway at least, it wasn't all his own work. He co-wrote the soundtrack, he didn't compose every single thing like he did for Buddy. Now some of you know Shawn's music has also appeared in 2 other games, Tales from the Borderlands and Sleeping Dogs. But these were not custom original compositions for the games at all. Instead, they were commercially available music that were licensed from him, or his label. For example, the one used in Tales of the Borderlands is Kiss the Sky, and in Sleeping Dogs 4 of his tracks appear, these being The Blue Grotto, Into the Wind, Little Sunrise and East, neither of which sound anything like the supposed Buddy 2 leaked track. Plus, if it was a gaming one, I have no doubt that people would have pointed it out pretty quickly. Shazam really does suck ass at detecting gaming soundtracks, but usually fans of a game can recognise its soundtrack right off the bat, if they've played it of course. so I really don't think this is from a different game at all. So possibility number 3, ICIC took this from an obscure artist. Now this one is extremely common in the world of unidentified media. A lot of unidentified music only has very brief tiny samples to go off. For example, How Long Will It Take and the ironically named Everyone Knows That, despite being partly found, those songs did, and as I'm making this, only have a 30-second sample available. The full song has never been found at all, let alone who the artist was that composed them either. Now these tracks as well also didn't start at the beginning, they were sort of cut in the middle, like a chorus or a bit of a verse. The supposed Bully 2 soundtrack clearly doesn't start at the beginning either, but I guess a counter argument to this is unlike other bits of unidentified music, they were usually found on an old recording somehow. How Long Will It Take was found on a pirated Russian DVD of Shrek 2. The Most Mysterious Song on the Internet, or That Song from MyHouse.wad, was found on an old tape recording after being recorded in the 80s, and Everyone Knows That was found on an old DVD backup from 1999. My point being is many unidentified songs are usually stumbled across accidentally. The Bully 2 soundtrack was uploaded purposely and identified as such, but of course that does not mean this song has anything to do with Bully 2 at all. ICIC never mentioned where this song was found or how he even acquired it. Going back to the post title, there is no mention of I found this on a developer's portfolio or I am a developer at Rockstar. He never mentioned anything like that. It is very likely the song belongs to somebody who falls into the Lost Wave category. It is a possibility that this song was found on an obscure website somewhere. Give it a bullshit backstory, oh it's from Bully 2, done. If it is the case, it means it's from an artist who has a very similar style to Shawn Lee, but obviously not him. A similar case of unidentified music is in 2009. A user on YouTube uploaded a supposed new unreleased song from Michael Jackson called Sexy Lady. But this was later revealed not to be Michael at all, but whoever made the song nailed down a lot of Michael Jackson's style. To the point the average person, and by average person I mean a non-Michael Jackson fan, probably would actually assume it is his work. But obviously to die-hard Michael Jackson fans, you can easily point out it's not him. And this song has never actually been stated who made it or where it was found. And it could be a very similar case here. Found on an obscure website by a really obscure artist who specialises in copying Shawn Lee's kind of style. Who knows? Now, I'm not going to go ahead and say the song is necessarily a gaming one either. If you listen to any of Shawn Lee's work, specifically the Ping Pong Orchestra, you'll know that his music does sound very similar in that way. Now, when I say it like that, I mean that if you were to take any of Shawn's songs from Ping Pong Orchestra and slap it over some Bully gameplay, you could probably pass it off as being part of the Bully soundtrack because it blends together that well. That's what I mean when I say that. Now there is a very, very tiny possibility it could be a leaked, unreleased track from Shawn himself. Remember, Shawn has been releasing music since the 90s, if not earlier, and given he's still active to this very day, there's a high probability that Shawn's had a few unreleased works that he's never released for whatever reason. And maybe one of these, or a couple of them, have leaked online somehow. It's really common for many artists to have a lot of commercially unreleased songs for a variety of different reasons. Of course, before they made it big. Sometimes personal projects that they never wanted to make public at all, or works they completed but never released, maybe because it didn't fit the vibe of an album or whatever. For example, a user on Reddit found a Taylor Swift CD from when she was in university from 2003, and the music has never been re-released since. There's also a lost media hunt going around for XXXTentacion's music that he uploaded to SoundCloud before he made it big, and of course has since been deleted. It could be from an obscure artist, it could also be an unreleased track from Shawn himself. Now possibility number 4 is ICIC composed it himself. After all, Shazam never picked it up because it was never uploaded to begin with, it was purely made by ICIC to troll the community. Now given the tracks are relatively short, I don't think it would take a musician that long to compose up a few small tracks on his own PC and then just upload them. There are many ways to make your own music and upload it nowadays you can do from your own home. The fact the tracks have that buddy kind of vibe to it shows that if ICIC did make it, he definitely knows how to compose music. Definitely not the work of someone who's never made music in their life, downloaded, FL Studio, messed around with it and then tried to pass it off as a buddy soundtrack or whatever. You'd definitely know if it was a fake like that, because somebody like that would not be able to create a track like this without some experience at the very least. Now of course, an argument for this is trolling communities has always been very, very common. There's been a long list of hoaxes and trolls since, I'd say even before the internet with magazines or whatever, and the Rockstar community is no stranger to these kind of trolls. A more recent one, for example, is involving GTA 6, where a Twitter user by the name of InfinityBesk created a fake leaker account named Chris Marks, who had insider info and saying that GTA 6 was going to drop on the 24th of October. It came and went, never happened. He came clean about it and ended up pissing off a lot of people. And back in 2019, Buddy 2 had a very similar one of these, involving a fake Buddy 2 screenshot which was going around, and the faker himself, Felipe Borges, came clean and angered a lot of people for his prank. Many people were impressed by his concept and UI skills, but still, faking something like this just doesn't really go down well with many people. Many trolls tend to come clean when the joke is up, but Icy never came clean. He deleted his Reddit account and then never came back, that was it. He never came back on a brand new account saying it was me, I made it myself, or it was me, I got it from this site. No one ever heard from him ever again. Now a counter argument to this is, and please correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not 100% certain on this one, but there is barely anybody who's making custom Buddy music, if that makes sense. There's no one on YouTube who you could probably nail it down being like, oh that's this guy's work. There's only one guy who's making Buddy music on YouTube, and that's very infrequently, and that's a user by the name of Buddy Songs, and I just want to say I know for a fact it's not him. I'll explain why in a minute. But Buddy Songs does covers and custom Buddy theme music as well. Now while his custom tracks are good, you can tell it's not his work with the supposed Buddy 2 soundtrack either. Plus, someone like him would have nothing to gain from faking this either. There is nobody who I can think of who can nail off Shawn Lee's style this closely. Assuming Icy made it, it's clear he's very talented to nail down that vibe, clearly not a beginner in composing music. But it does raise the question, if it is Icy, does that mean that his music is somewhere out there on YouTube or Spotify and we just haven't found it yet? If it is a troll, it could be a possibility that, a bit like Felipe Borges, could it be that he was going to troll the community a bit with these soundtrack leaks, come clean and say, yeah it's me, I make custom Buddy music, follow me on YouTube Music, Spotify or whatever, and then maybe dipped out of it when he realised how excited people were getting and how pissed off they'd be if he came clean. There is a possibility of that as well. But yeah, those are just a few theories on the supposed leaked Buddy 2 soundtrack. Let me know which one of these you think is most likely, or come up with your own down below. Thank you for watching and have a great day.